Hi and welcome to my latest YouTube video. So in this video I'm not going to be performing any data analysis, but I'll be trying to answer one important question that I think every researcher has in his or her mind when they're starting out any kind of data analysis in the quantitative realm, I mean. So which test should I apply and which test should I perform? So that's the very big question. And in order to answer that question, you need to consider several factors, okay, which I'm going to try and cover. The first important factor is your hypothesis. Now, a hypothesis is an assumption. When you start out your research, you will have certain assumptions, right? You will say, let's say one of the hypotheses could be there is a positive correlation between age of the respondents and their depression score. Okay, that is one hypothesis. You may have several other hypotheses as well. So, in order to test those hypotheses, you are performing the statistical analysis or the statistical tests. So actually that is the main purpose of the statistical test, to see whether your hypothesis have been proven or disproven. Okay, so the hypothesis is something very important, and as a researcher, when you start out your research, when you examine previous studies, you will develop certain hypotheses that you need to consider. So that is the first factor that determines what kind of test you perform. The second thing is the conceptual framework. So when you are performing a kind of a statistical test, you need to first think about which is the dependent variable and which is the independent variable in a study. Let's say I'm doing a study on depression among college students. So my dependent variable will be the depression score, right? And the independent variables could be age, it could be socioeconomic status, it could be other factors that I think may play an important role in determining the depression score of the respondents. So you need to go back and have a look at your conceptual framework. If you're doing a thesis, if you're writing a thesis, then I think this should be in the third chapter most probably. You can go and have a look at it and see which is the dependent variable and which is the independent variable. That will determine as to what kind of test you will perform. Then you have the third important factor, which is the parametric versus non-parametric tests. Now, I have covered some videos that include parametric tests, and some other videos are on non-parametric tests, but most of my videos are on parametric tests. However, whether you perform a parametric or non-parametric test is again determined by whether your data is normally distributed or not. Okay, if it is normally distributed, then you're better off going with the parametric tests. Okay, if it is not normally distributed, then you're better off going with the non-parametric tests. As I said, I've made videos on both parametric and non-parametric tests. You can have a look at my YouTube videos and you will find them. So that's a third other factor that determines whether your what kind of test you would be actually performing. Then the fourth important factor is the variables. What kind of variable do you have in your study? Are they nominal? Are they ordinal? Or are they scale or continuous? Now, SPSS and PSPP, they recognize only these three types of variables. There's so many other categories as well, but these are the three main categories it recognizes. So a nominal would be something like a gender, right? The male or female or transgender. And then you have ordinal, which is an order, like excellent, good, average, poor, very poor, something like that. They're in a particular order. And then you have a scale, which is in continuous form. Okay, a continuous form, for example, you have age, for example, you have height, weight, sometimes depression score, which is in continuous form. Now let's go and look at some combinations so that you get a better idea. So if you have continuous variables, if you have one continuous variable on one side and another continuous variable on the other side, you could do a Pearson's correlation, okay, provided the data is normally distributed, of course. So Pearson's correlation, an example of that would be, for example, age and depression score. Now age is in continuous form, 25, 23, 27, whatever the number is. And on the other side, I have the depression score of the respondents, which again is in continuous form, 18, 25, whatever the score is. And I want to see whether there is a correlation between them. So if you have continuous variables on both sides, you can do a Pearson's correlation. Now, if you have one continuous variable and a nominal variable on the other side, you could perform an ANOVA or a t-test. Okay, ANOVA, for example, let's take the example of marital status and depression score. So if you have the marital status of the respondents, let's say you have three categories. You at least have three categories there. You have married, unmarried, and then divorced or separated. You may even have four categories: unmarried, married, divorced, and then another one called separated. So that is a nominal variable. On the other side, you have the continuous variable, which is the depression score. So you want to test that nominal variable against that continuous variable. Okay, so in that case, you can perform an ANOVA. In case you only have two groups rather than the four that I suggested, let's say you have gender, male and female, for the example sake, and then on the other side your depression score, you can do a t-test. So ANOVA and t-test, I have made a separate video on this. You can have a look at that as well in my channel. Then if you have only nominal variables on both sides, you can do a chi-square test, which is one of the first videos I've made. You can have a look at that as well. So for nominal versus nominal, let's take the example of male female. Again, two categories. Let's say we only have two categories in our study, and then you have level of depression divided into high and low. So you have 2 into 2, right? Both sides you have nominal variables only. There you can perform a chi-square test. Now, of course, you also have ordinal variables. Let's say you have ordinal variables on both sides. You can do a Spearman's correlation. Okay, so I told you what an ordinal variable is. It's in a particular order. I have not made a video on Spearman's correlation so far, but it's called Spearman's rank correlation, and I'll be making a video pretty soon. Another important thing that you need to consider is that if you have continuous variables, you can always convert them to ordinal variables. But if you have collected data only in the ordinal variables, then it's very difficult to convert it to continuous. Okay, so it's always better to collect the data in continuous and then convert them. And I've made a separate video on how to transform the data as well, so you can have a look at that. So with that, I will conclude this video. I hope this video was useful. I will also try and leave the links to all the tests that I've covered here in the description. If you have any doubts and clarifications, please leave them in the comment section. And if you like the video, please do like and subscribe to my channel, and that really motivates me to make more videos. So that's about it. Thank you, and see you later.